So Andre, you've had the pleasure of playing everyone's most anticipated title right now, Kirby and the Forgotten Land. Specifically the full game, not just the demo that's out now, I guess, but the full game. How is it? How is this post-apocalyptic Kirby game? And does it actually translate well into 3D?
Yeah, I'm actually in the land, the Forgotten Land right now, as you can see. I'm having a complete blast with it. Like, I kind of fell off the Kirby train for a few years there because they just started feeling very samey, but now that it's gone into 3D, it's allowed them to do things that they haven't been able to before. Like, one, move, toward or away from the camera, which is a big deal. But they're really embracing it with how the copy abilities take advantage of it, having the Mouthful abilities, giving you a new way of, like, moving around and interacting with things. It's a lot of fun so far. The presentation is great. I love the music. Like, when that first major theme hits you in the first level or two, it's like, oh my god, this is so great. It's so catchy. So yeah, I'm having a total blast with it at this point, and that's including in co-op as well, which is just another fun way of playing through the game. I should mention real quick, yes, there is a demo available for the game right now. We are playing, though, the full copy of the game, which, even though I played a fair amount of it, I can only discuss up to the end of World 1 up to this point, so there won't be much in the way of major spoilers or anything, but we have been able to see some things that aren't in the demo, such as, I imagine, Waddle Dee Town, although we haven't played the demo ourselves. I don't know for sure if it's there or not, but I'm guessing it isn't.
Well, you've also played, the rest of World 1.
Exactly, that too, yep.
So, how are these levels structured? How would you describe the structure compared to main 2D Kirby games? I mean, from the very first trailer, a lot of people, including us, I think, were comparing it to Super Mario 3D World in terms of how the levels were laid out, and it felt more like a 3D version of a 2D level. Does that still seem to be the case now that you've actually played it?
I mean, to an extent, I would say Mario 3D World is probably still one of the better comparisons, but it doesn't really evoke it too much when you're playing it, because I think part of it is these environments just feel more natural than a lot of Mario's did, which, and this isn't to disparage, like, 3D World, but oftentimes it feels like you're just on platforms, like, floating in the sky or something, whereas here, these do feel a little bit more organic, a little bit more, like, part of the environment, which is fitting given the fact that, we are exploring this forgotten land. So the barriers aren't, like, as obvious as in Mario. Not that you'll ever too often be confused as to where you can go or not, but it does just feel a little bit more cohesive, and maybe a little bit more open at points. Like with a Kirby game, it's inherently a little bit more casual than the Mario game, so you don't feel like this constant pressure to keep moving. There is a lot of exploration here, probably more so than in Mario. There's a lot of collectibles, a lot of like hidden things to find, and so it just kind of like encourages you to play around with it. So it definitely feels a little bit looser, a little bit more open than I would say 3D Land or 3D World has. But that's probably the closest comparison, because by and large, you are still going through these, linear areas. There's a world map connecting it all, which I appreciate. It's just a nice way of, what I really like about it is you can fly around a little warp star to pick levels. Although I should mention, though, there is also a menu you can bring up on that screen, and you can quickly select any world and level you want. That way you have to fly to each one if you don't want to. Although,
that is
like
really
I said,
nice.
yeah, it is nice. Although, if you do like flying around like I do, you can press the trigger buttons to speed up and fly even faster. So that probably is the optimal way of getting around.
That is perfect, and yeah, I'm sure flying around is honestly nice. I think Kirby Star Allies had a little bit of that in its world map, but I'm excited for how this one does it. Now, speaking of that world map and the actual level structures, one thing that we saw in the world map, and I think it was the second trailer, there was the actual levels, and then there was a bunch of other smaller levels with like little dimensional rift thing over them. Is there anything you can talk about with that, or?
Yeah, absolutely. I can actually touch on all of them. Oh, I believe they're Treasure Road stages. So they seem to pop up, I want to say randomly. There's probably some criteria I'm hitting that causes them to open. It might just be based on which levels you reached. I don't fully know, but they do open every now and then on the world map. They offer little bite-sized challenges. So far in my experience, like 1 to 3 minutes, and then if you clear it, you get some kind of reward for it. But furthermore, if you beat the target time, then you get an additional bonus, which is in the one experience I've done it so far at least was extra money. So like they just kind of test your abilities. They give you a copy ability. They're like, hey, get through this level as quickly as possible, or accomplish the goal of the level as quickly as possible. One of them, like using the bomb ability, had you kind of like bowling almost, where you're like bowling down these like lanes to target enemies, and then once you clear one area, you move on to the next, and it's just all about clearing as quickly as possible. So we've seen things like this in other Kirby games, like other little copy-based challenges, but it does kind of feel new now that it's in 3D, and I had fun with them so far.
Yeah, I don't believe they've ever been like integrated into the world map like this before, so they're almost like small little like sub-level mini games almost, it sounds like, which is nice.
Yeah, they kind of complement it too, because Kirby by and large is in, as mentioned earlier, a little more casual of an experience, and this game doesn't seem to be too far outside the norm there. But these challenges are harder. You do have to, they do test your ability. Like, these are all about moving quickly. These actually feel more like Mario 3D World stages, I'd say, than the main ones. So that's kind of fun. Like, does offer a nice challenge, and even the earlier ones, none of them felt that difficult, but the fact that they were in World 1 so far, it kind of suggests to me that they probably will get harder down the line. And I should mention too real quick, speaking of difficulty, this surprised me, this game has a difficulty select, and when you first start the game, it asks you, do you want to play in, I believe it's called Wild Mode or Spring Breeze Mode. So in Spring Breeze Mode, they say the game's a little bit easier, you get more health, whereas in Wild Mode, it's a little bit wilder, a little bit more challenging. So I don't know what all differences there are in there. I am, of course, playing on Wild Mode, and while it hasn't, I haven't died a whole lot of times yet, they're having a couple boss fights or, big enemy challenges, mid-bosses, I suppose, that have kind of pushed me to the limit, where I'm like, oh god, I did get close to dying there. So it does feel a little bit more difficult on Wild Mode than your standard Kirby game.
That's actually really interesting, because most of the time the larger difficulty in Kirby, especially a difficulty select, is saved for the side modes, the arenas, right, or things like that, where they're made to challenge you and become challenging and be difficult, but be really satisfying to overcome. Getting that now in the main game as a whole is actually pretty exciting, and it should round out the whole experience, I think.
Round out, like Kirby rounds out himself doing anything, I guess? I don't know.
Well, I'll make that awkward segue into the next topic that I actually want to bring up, which is Mouthful Mode. So, Mouthful Mode, as soon as that got revealed, honestly just took the internet by storm. Everyone wants to know about this. Everyone wants to know all the different kinds of mouths there are, Mouthful modes there are. I don't know how to put that. Are there any that we haven't seen in trailers that you could talk about here that you've seen in your playtime so far?
Have we seen the staircase in trailers yet?
No.
Yeah, so you can inhale a freaking giant staircase or staircase-like thing, and then you can roam around or hop around, however a staircase moves around, and you can stomp enemies with this thing. And you can also use it, of course, as a staircase yourself to reach higher areas. So that's one of them. There's another where you can take control of a bookshelf or something like that that's attached to the wall, and then basically just cause the bookshelf to fall over, which tears open part of the wall, if not the entire wall, allowing you to access areas behind it or find secret items. So yeah, it seems like, I didn't do an exact count, but it seems like there's at least one of these per stage, I would say, so far, or around there. And yeah, not all of them are unique, though. There have been ones that are reused. In particular, I think I've seen the traffic cone a few times, I believe, and because that is also one of the more diverse ones. Most of these seem to be pretty limited in scope. It's okay, here's the Mouthful area, and then once you reach the end, you transform back into Kirby. And luckily, you do keep your copy ability in this case. You don't lose your copy ability.
That's good.
But the traffic cone does seem to be one of the ones that's used more often, with how you can break open pipes, which causes water to burst, or there's a turtle enemy that you need to smash open by crashing down onto its back. So yeah, they're really fun. They help mix up the gameplay. There's not a ton of depth to all of them. Some of them, as I mentioned, are just simple toggles almost, but I'm loving them a lot. The animations of them are adorable. It's hilarious watching Kirby turn into this giant monstrosity thing, and it's just a lot of fun. So yeah, they're a great addition to the game so far.
That's really good to hear, because everything we've seen of the Mouthful Mode so far, it was a little hard to tell just how well it was going to be used, because I think initially they definitely seemed a bit almost just more copy abilities, but It definitely sounds like they serve more purpose than that. And I guess circumstantial purposes is the best way to put it, where they depend on the level, and it's not like you can pick a copy ability and go in the level and use that. This is a specific ability in this area you have to use in this area. And
pretty much, exactly.
It almost makes it, I guess in some cases, like the bookshelf one you mentioned, it's almost like a more... It's using your environment in a more interesting way, rather than simply having Kirby hit a switch and the wall blows up or something. It actually works well.
You don't even have to use all of them, I think. But some of them are more offensive-based, like the soda machine, which you can roam around. You actually have an ammo count with this thing, where you can pop out soda cans at enemies, but once you run out, well, that's it, So it's just, yeah, it's just this eclectic array of things you can use, and there's some later in the game I wish I could talk about. I can't, unfortunately, even though I imagine some have been shown off already. But yeah, great addition to the game so far. And I love and the car too. I just love driving around the car, which it can also jump. You can jump around in this adorable Kirby car. It's great. So.
That's really good to hear, though. I'm honestly excited to try out the Mouthful Mode myself.
Yeah, it's good.
But to take a step back from specifically the Mouthful Mode, how about the copy abilities and the upgrades you can get to them? Anything you could say on that in terms of how well they feel in a 3D space, or how hard is it to find the upgrades?
Yeah, so I guess 2 points there. Like, overall, this game, it feels really good overall. Like, I just love how Kirby handles in this case. The controls are responsive. They feel solid. Like, I haven't had a controller issue yet. Or anything I would ascribe to the game's fault rather than my own. So it feels good, and as part of that, the copy abilities are great. Like, they're enjoyable to use. I mean, which isn't uncommon for Kirby. Like, the copy abilities are usually where it's at. But that's even probably at least, if not more, the case in this case, given the fact that they are in 3D now. And that does change how they feel and how you use them, Like, with the bombs, I love how you can roll them down any direction around you. Or how you can use the needle ability to, like, basically roll into enemies, and then, like, they get stuck to your needles and they roll with you, almost like you're a temporary Katamari ball, which is hilarious. The Ranger power is interesting because, so a lot of these abilities, I should clarify real quick before I get to the Ranger, a lot of these abilities, the amount of options you have with them aren't quite as in-depth as, say, in, like, Kirby Superstar, where they had, like, multiple abilities. They're a little bit more simpler here, partially probably because of the 360 degrees you have with it. So you either have, like, the basic attack by tapping a button, or they have some kind of combo by multi-tapping it, or if you hold the attack, you usually can do some kind of charge ability. And in the case of the Ranger, which is Kirby with a freaking gun now, by the way, you can actually aim. A cursor pops up on the screen, you hold the charge, and you can aim the cursor with a control stick and shoot exactly where, and target exactly where you want to shoot. With a powered up ability. Yeah, it's really cool. So that's fun, and if you just tap it, you can otherwise do shots quickly in any direction. And yeah, the ice ability lets you skate around just a little bit quicker than walking. Sword, of course, you basically know how that works, because how it is in pretty much every game. And Cutter, so Cutter is interesting because it's one of the powers I've upgraded, which is something I actually didn't even know about, Tris. This caught me by surprise. So yeah, as you go through the game, you'll find blueprints, and you can then take those blueprints back to a shop in Waddle Dee Town, or whatever it's called, and you can upgrade specific abilities. And one of the ones I've upgraded so far is Cutter, which allows you to not only send out multiple, like, razor blade cutter things, because if you hold the Y button, or the attack button more specifically, you can hold them in place to charge them up and then summon them back to you, almost like a boomerang.
Oh, that's funny.
So you can get double the attacks. And I believe, I might be wrong on this, I think you can even do it for multiple when you shoot up multiple of them. So you might be able to have multiple charging. It might just be one, I'm not fully sure on that. But in any case, it's cool, it's neat, and the upgrade abilities really do kind of change how these powers feel, because they do, they become stronger, they become possibly faster. In fact, each ability is rated in a couple of ways too. I think it is power and agility, maybe. I forget what the other ranking is.
I think it's rapid fire.
Rapid fire, that's it.
Yep.
So yeah, so I've only seen, as I said, I've only seen a couple of these upgrades so far. I'm excited to see the rest as I go through the game.
On the copy abilities, I don't know if it's in World 1, so I don't know if you could talk about it, but can you talk about the drill ability at all? That was one of the ones.
Unfortunately, not in World 1. I wish. Darn it, Nintendo.
Alright, that's okay. That's okay. Well, you mentioned Waddle Dee Town, so let's talk a little bit about that, because that's also been that's been something I've been really excited for. It sounds weird to say because it's just a town, but Waddle Dee Town just looks really tranquil and really just fun to sit in, and all the different things you can do around there. So, what's it like building up this town and populating it with Waddle Dees?
So, yeah, building it up actually takes a little bit longer than I thought it might. It's not, terribly long. It's just that you have to basically get beyond the first world for that to happen. So I've built up most of so when you first enter Waddle Dee Town, there's like almost nothing there. And there's little picket signs to show you how many Waddle Dees you need to rescue from the levels in order to restore the town. So real quick, you'll find Waddle Dees all over these levels, and there's even missions in each level that when you accomplish them, that gets you more Waddle Dees. So when you enter a level, you can see the mission list. Some of them are things like find 5 tulips, or make your way through the mall without getting lost. Take the right path through the mall. So fun little objectives like that, or beat a boss in under 2 minutes. So anyways, finding these Waddle Dees, they go back to town, and eventually you'll build it up as you find more of them. And I finally built I got the cafe built. I have the Kirby's house built, which is adorable. There's all kinds of cute things you can do in it. We'll have a whole video about it, but you can look at a little book and see Kirby's history of games. You can sleep cute. In the bed. Yeah, little pictures appear on the wall based on the compliments in the game. At the cafe, as you probably know, you can get a part-time job, which is a minigame, which is also co-op based. So you can engage this little minigame and earn money that way effectively. And that minigame is it's tough on the hardest difficulty. You have to feed all these Waddle Dees freaking fast, based on these little icons that appear over their head. Sometimes they'll fade in slowly, or they'll fill in from the bottom. It's like, what is that icon? It looks like another. What food do they want? So yeah, it's been cool building it up. It's almost like a little bit like Terrytown, from Breath of the Wild, where you kind of populate it more and the town gets built up over time. So I can only speak to the first wave of building so far. In fact, there's a couple things we can talk about that I haven't even gotten to yet, so I may have to have an awkward insert at some point during this video to explain that stuff if I can get to it in time, like the professor and also the fishing minigame, which I want to try out. But it's cool. The Waddle Dee Town it's neat. You can access it at any time, either by going to the very bottom of the map or just tapping, I think it's B on the map, and you'll warp there instantly. And from town, you can also, of course, return to the world map, or you can return to the starting area of the game, Triss, because there's a starting segment of the game that isn't accessible from the world map otherwise, and you can go back to it if you want at any point. And I just love the whole opening to this game, the whole beginning sequence, which is just a fun little thing that they did, which I can't say too much about, oddly. It might be in the demo, which is even weirder if I can't talk about elements of it, but in any case.
Well, I guess the opening is something we'll have to find out more about later. So, a couple other little things in Waddle Dee Town. There's the post office looking thing. Have you been able to figure out what that is yet?
Yeah, Waddle Dee Deliveries. So how this works is there are ways in which you can get secret codes in the game, and then you tell the Waddle Dee guy at this post office thing the code by actually typing it in on the keyboard, and he'll give you a gift. Apparently there are ways to get gifts online as well. I'm not able to do that yet because the servers aren't online as far as I'm aware. It gives me an error. But yeah, it seems like there are hidden passwords around the world. I've only found one so far. There's one right across from the post office he straight up tells you about. So you walk up to it, and then your little the buddy in this game? The companion? Elflin, thank you. Yeah, they'll pop up with a little message indicators. You talk to them like, hey, we found this secret password. All caps, by the way, so when you tell the Waddle Dee that, make sure you type in all caps, which is a little annoying. And then I just got a little gift for it. So it just seems like a fun little secret that I'm gonna have to go back through these levels for, or now, to see if there's anything I missed. Because I wouldn't have even known to look for these things in the first place. So
yeah,
now that I know too, I may have to keep an eye out.
That's fun though, honestly. It definitely takes it sounds like the password system you would get for Pokemon mystery gifts, or even Super Kirby Clash, where you can enter a password and get a little reward every now and then. It's a nice little extra thing, but it doesn't sound like it's anything essential to your gameplay, but more fun to reward your exploration at the very least.
Exactly, yep.
Now, also in town, more of a small side thing, Kirby games are always known for collectibles. And they already showed off that the collectibles in this game are little capsule figurines.
Right.
Have you gotten any notable ones or anything with this you could talk about?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if any of them are off limits or not. I imagine the later ones are, but yeah. So you can find collectibles as you play through the levels. You can just pick them up in a level, often hidden away somewhere. Or there's a capsule machine in town that you can use to cash in your money at, and try and get some more of these. And there's a fair amount of them. I don't know if I can reveal how many there are. But once you have them, you can then look at them, and that's adorable because they appear on a little table, and you can see a giant Kirby, or a normal size Kirby, but he looks giant, sitting behind the table just staring at these trophies or little figurines. Yeah, it's pretty great. So those are cool. I mean, it's not a huge part of the game, and after looking at a few of them, I'm like, okay, I've seen enough of these. But it's just another fun little collectible for you to grab or try to earn at the vending machine. Even if you can get repeats, of course, meaning once you get down to those final few, you're probably going to be cashing in a lot of money trying to get those final collectibles.
Oh boy.
Yep.
just like any kind of gacha game.
Yeah, pretty much, exactly. So Kirby's gone. Luckily, no NFTs here, as far as I'm aware. So,
well, that's good. That's good. No, no sign of what caused this Forgotten Land.
Yeah, good point.
Any other details on Waddle Dee Town you want to touch upon, or that you can touch upon?
Yeah, I guess to tie it in. So, of course, Bandana Dee also appears here. He appears here when you're not playing in co-op, which is cute. So you'll see him do different things. So far, like either standing around or sitting in a chair on top of Kirby's house. He'll give you tips while you're, if you want to check in with him. But as part of that, of course, one of the things he'll remind you of is you can play co-op at pretty much any time in this game. So once you get past the initial starting point of the game, you can just, I think, press plus or pause at any point and have a second player hop in, and he can play as Bandana Dee. And what's cool too is his abilities level up whenever Kirby's using a copy ability that's also leveled up. So he'll get stronger. I don't know if his actual abilities change, but I haven't tried it myself yet, but the game tells you about this. And but I did play a fair amount of co-op, and it's just been really fun so far. Having a second player going through it with me, being able to, collect their own collectibles, or like take down enemies, or help in a boss fight. And of course, Waddle Dee can all do all kinds of things, including flying around to this little spear thing as he's been able to before. So it's pretty adorable. So that's fun. The fact that it's two-player co-op, that's two-player co-op. Unfortunately, not anymore at this point.
And it's only local co-op, right? I mean, I know that you said the online servers aren't up yet, but it's only local.
It seems to be only local co-op. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, worth mentioning, because I know everyone's been wondering with almost every trailer that's come out at this point.
Exactly.
But at this point, are there any other points about Kirby in this little preview discussion we have that you just want to get out to the world, that you need everyone to know about? Everyone's favorite little pink puffball is cleaning there. Now I know cleaning isn't in the game, but
if it is, I haven't seen it yet. So yeah, I guess there's a few things to go over. I forget if I mentioned it in this particular take of this discussion or not, but the music is awesome. I love the music, especially that first level theme. It's so bombastic. It just feels epic for a Kirby game. I'm loving it so far. Music's great. In fact, the overall presentation is just really solid across the board. I will say the game overall runs at 30 frames per second. The menus oddly run at 60, which almost feels a little jarring by comparison, because it was only when I hit a menu I'm like, oh wait, this feels way smoother than the actual game. So yeah, then you go back to the gameplay and it's back to 30 again. And I will say the level of detail, or that's not the right term for this, but background objects that are farther away from Kirby run at lower frame rates, and the farther away you are, the lower the frame rate it is, and that feels a little aggressive in this game. Like there are things that are maybe like 20 feet away from Kirby that are running at a noticeably lower frame rate. I'm like, oh, that seems a little odd. So that's a little surprising, but otherwise the graphics so far have been great. Like great style. I love how everything looks. There's something else that surprised me: the fact that Kirby. He has a limited amount of time he can fly in this game. So unlike most the 2D games where you can fly, I'm pretty sure, indefinitely, this one's a little bit like Smash Brothers, where instead of being limited based on flaps, it's actually based on time. So it seems you can fly as much as you want for about 5 seconds or so. Then after that point, Kirby's going to start falling. Now, what else is interesting is that the height you can fly at is, of course, capped as well, but it's based on like where in the level you are. There are areas where you can fly higher than others. Like if there's a high part of the area you need to get up to, you can fly up to it. But otherwise, the cap is fairly low to the ground. I mean, not like right at the ground level, but not too far off the ground.
Right.
Which is pretty standard for Kirby, I think.
Yeah.
And yeah, I think that's most of the things I want to touch on. You can guard. I forgot if I mentioned that. And when you're guarding, you can perform a dodge by tapping the control stick in any direction.
Oh, nice.
Oh, yes, there's one more thing I wanted. That reminds me of something. So. You have to use a control stick to play this game. You can't use a D-pad, unfortunately, but that's for a very good reason, Tris. Because the D-pad allows you to perform these little animations, including waving at the other Waddle Dees in town. You can wave to the Waddle Dees, and they'll wave back at you.
Oh, that is incredible.
It's awesome. It's awesome. That makes the game right there. I'm probably going to make a whole video about that, so...
Perfect. No, that is actually great to hear. That's really charming. And Kirby's known oftentimes for having a lot of charm, so that fits right in with it, and that's really great. Well, any other final thoughts on Kirby and the Forgotten Land for this preview?
It's just been really good so far. I'm still, even though I have played beyond what I can talk about, I still have a ways to go in this game. So definitely stay tuned for our full review for my full thoughts on the game. We'll see if we can carry my interest all the way to the end. But at this point, it's been a lot of fun. It's like, why is it taking Kirby 30 years to go 3D? But now that he has, I'm having a blast. Really enjoying it. I can't wait to see what more, Mouthful abilities await me. And some of those later levels that we've seen in the trailers, I'm excited to get to them. So yeah, it's been fun so far, and the game's looking very promising at this point.
That is really great to hear, and it makes me very excited to not only try the demo, but also the full game eventually when we get there.
Yeah,
all right.
I can't wait to play more, so...
Yeah, no, and I look forward to all the content you make out of this, I gotta say. Alright, well I think that'll wrap up this preview discussion for Kirby and the Forgotten Land. But remember, there is a demo available right now you can go try yourself if our discussion here got you interested in it. Or, you could sit like me and be sitting here waiting for the full game. But otherwise, thank you all so much for watching. We have plenty of content, both from the demo and the main game, coming out over the next few weeks, honestly. So make sure to check all that out. You can subscribe to GameXplain for plenty more on that. And I'm sure on the side, I don't know if I'm pointing the right way, on the side there'll be plenty more videos popping up too for you to check out from Kirby and the Forgotten Land. But thank you all for watching, and farewell.